come to order. First, we'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, the following matters will come before the Revere License Commission today at our regular meeting of October 18, 2017. The first order of business will be the approval of the minutes from our September 20th, 2017 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second the motion.
The motion to approve the minutes from the September 20th, 2017 meeting has been ordered. The next item on the agenda will be the application submitted for consideration. Item number 1 is St. Mary's of the Assumption Church, 670 Washington Avenue. Ralph DeChico, contact. The application is for a special one-day license for a malt wine, common victular, and entertainment license to be exercised at St. Mary's Hall, 670 Washington Avenue, from 5 p.m. until 10 p.m. on Saturday, November 4th, 2017, for the St. Mary's Holy Name Society Spaghetti Supper.
Hey.
Your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Ralph DeChico, 49 Washington Street, Vice President, St. Mary's Holy Name Society.
And can you explain a little bit about what you plan to do here?
Yes, it's one of the yearly events that we do to help support the church. It's for the Holy Name Society. It's a spaghetti dinner for the parishioners that we have. We just have a dinner that we host for them, pasta dinner, and we offer beer and wine that we sell to the parishioners.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners, do you have any questions?
No questions. I know it's a great thing that you do every year. It's a lot of fun. And I know that you've always kept the beer and wine contained in the corner, especially over here. There's no children.
No children.
This is just the Holy Name.
It's the parishioners that come. In the past, we've had some children, some of the families, but this year and last year it was just basically the parishioners. No children.
Well, it's a great event.
Yeah.
I have no questions.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
The motion is approved
Right.
for the St. Mary's of the Assumption Church one-day special license for malt wine, common victular, and entertainment to be exercised at St. Mary's Hall, 670 Washington Avenue, from 5 p.m. until 10 p.m. on Saturday, November 4th, 2017.
Thank you. And if everybody wants tickets, you can reach out to me.
Thank you. Item number 2, NAI Entertainment Holdings, LLC, DBA Showcase Cinema, Revere, Chatters Bar, 565 Squire Road, John Grandy, manager. This is an application for a change of officers and directors for the Showcase Cinema, Revere, Chatters Bar. Your name and address for the record, sir?
Hello, my name is Sean Judge. I'm the area manager in Boston for National Amusements. My home address is 26 Hillcrest Drive, Tingsboro, Massachusetts, 01879.
And are there any changes planned for the establishment?
No, this application is strictly to report to you guys that we have made some changes in directors and officers at the National Amusements Inc. and NAI Entertainment Holdings LLC levels, as well as appointed trustees on the Sumner Redstone Trust.
Do any of the fellow commissioners have any questions?
I have a question. Back over the summer, there was a little situation with a shooting at the right outside the carnival, right outside the. Have there been any events since then? Nothing that you're aware of?
No, sir.
Nothing. Okay. No other questions.
This had nothing to do with Chatters, though, at this time, the restaurant.
No changes to
not
chapters. No, it's strictly just reporting changes to directors and officers.
Okay. I have no questions at this time.
Is there a motion that we can vote on?
I'll make a motion to approve the change of
second the motion.
officers.
The motion is
Thank you.
approved.
Thank you for your time.
The application for a change of officers directors for NAI Entertainment Holdings Showcase Cinema Revere Chatters Bar. John Grandy, manager, for a change of officers and directors. Thank you very much. Thank you. Item number 3, Hook and Reel, Inc., DBA Hook and Reel, 151A VFW Parkway, Leon Lin, manager. This is an application for entertainment and change of hours for an all-alcohol restaurant license. The proposed entertainment is cable TV and radio. The proposed hours of operation are Sunday through Thursday, 3 p.m. to 10 p.m., Friday and Saturday from 12 p.m. until 12 a.m.
Good afternoon, Kristen Scanlon representing the licensee. My apologies for my client not being in attendance. He's got an ailing family member, which is the reason that he couldn't be here today. But 2 changes before you, or 1 proposal and 1 slight change with respect. First, just to the opening hour on Fridays and Saturdays. I know when we originally came, we had requested that it would be 3 p.m. opening across the board, but they'd like to be able to accommodate for lunch service on the weekends as well. So that's the reason for the slight rollback by 3 hours and the change of the opening hour on Friday and Saturday. And secondly is the request for non-live entertainment to accommodate 15 televisions and background music.
Do any commissioners have any questions?
Not at this time, I don't. So the original hours that you had requested was, oh, I see, it was going to start at 3 o'clock.
Right.
Okay, why the change? I
They-
see you haven't opened yet, so I'm just
They'll be open in about 4 to 6 weeks. They're just finishing up some final construction and build out in the space. The reason for the change in the opening hour for Friday and Saturday so that they can accommodate for lunch service as well.
Okay, and you plan on opening within the next few weeks?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any issues with the parking down there?
No, that they have access to that parking lot as part of the shopping center over there.
Okay, I'm just concerned because I've gone down there a couple of times and I see towing going on down there, right at Hook and Reel.
I'm not aware of any issue, but I'll check with the client and their landlord on that. I know as part of their lease that their patrons of the restaurant will be able to park in the lot.
Okay, is there a designated area for them? I would think that the mall is just,
That's what I would think
Wherever you
too. I'll
wanna
find out
park.
about that, because as far as I know, there wasn't anything previously designated, but that's good to know if they have any issues with towing, so I'll make sure that's squared away, and if there's anything noteworthy to apprise the board on, I'll certainly let you know.
yeah, I'm just concerned whether,
Right.
it's actually them that are doing this, or, I happened to be in one of the stores there, and they come in and asked if where my plate was, and if I was a patron in there, and I said, yes. And when I went out, I noticed they were towing cars, so I was just a little confused. I
Okay.
didn't know. That's why I kind of wish, I know the manager had a problem, but I wish he were here to ask these questions as to what was taking place, because I don't believe that they would designate a certain area for a restaurant.
As far as I know, that's not the case, so I
No.
can certainly find out and keep the board apprised of what the situation is regarding the parking down there.
Okay, because they had a tow truck parked right in there for a couple of days.
Okay.
Just moving the cars, so I'm just curious if you knew what that was about.
Okay.
Okay, now I have no other questions.
Only question, so just Friday and Saturday, you're going to open up at 12?
Yes.
Not Sundays? Why?
Yes.
It's football season, how come you don't open at 12?
Client requested only Friday, Saturday, I
I gotta
suppose.
talk with him. But with 15 teams, yeah, I don't see any concerns here.
Okay.
But just Friday and Saturday, that's the only
Yes.
one. Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
Are there any, I'm sorry,
Go
do you
ahead.
have any other questions?
No, I don't, thank you.
Are there any proponents? Hearing and seeing none, are there any opponents? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close that section as well. Do I have a motion to vote on?
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion to approve the hour change on Saturday, Fridays and Saturdays from 3 p.m. to 12 p.m. as requested for Hook and Reel.
I'll second the motion.
The motion is approved for Hook and Reel. The application for an entertainment and change of hours for an all-alcohol restaurant license is approved. The approved entertainment is cable TV and radio. The approved hours are Sunday through Thursday, 3 p.m. to 10 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 12 p.m. to 12 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item number 4 is Black Marble Motorcycle, LLC, DBA Boston Harley Davidson.
Microphone.
649-1 Squire Road. Heather Vieira is the event manager. This is an application for 2 special one-day malt wine, common victular, and entertainment licenses to be exercised at the same location, which is 649-1 Squire Road. The requested date and times are Saturday, October 28th, 2017, from 12 p.m. until 4 p.m. for a Halloween party, and Sunday, November 12th, 2017, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. for a pet adoption day. Both events are to be held indoors. Your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Heather Vieira, 13 Jones Street in Everett, Massachusetts.
Very good. And can you explain, first of all, let's start with the Halloween party.
So we're hosting our Halloween party on Saturday, October 28th, and we'd like to serve beer to our customers for $1 per can.
And how will the beer and wine be dispensed? What type of control are you going to have over that?
So we allow 2 beers per person, and we track this with a wristband system. Each of our customers is given a wristband, and it's marked with usually an X on the wristband. Once they've reached the 2 beer limit, they're no longer served.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions?
Is this the first time you're doing this event in our city?
No, we've done this.
You've done the costume party before?
Yes.
I don't remember. I saw them go down the beach. They had a costume party driving the beach.
Well, we've
But I
done it, this is the first time I'm doing it as the events manager, but I know that it's been done for the last 2 years since the location's moved to Revere.
Oh, I must have missed that. I don't remember that.
Oh, you gotta come on down.
And this is I have gone to the events there, and they're very good. I enjoy them. And this is a costume party.
Yes, it's a costume party, and we have some entertainment for the kids. We're gonna do some pumpkin decorating and fall refreshments, and so it's a costume contest for the kids, and then a costume contest for the adults as well.
Okay. And you planning on having any detail there where you're going to be serving beer and wine?
I usually have in-store security, which is just our own staff that makes sure that the beer is contained, it doesn't leave the building.
Yeah. I kind of like to just run that by the police department and just to make sure how they feel about that, whether we should have police detail there while they feel safe with the security.
Yeah, I can talk to the detail sergeant, have him contact with them and liaise with them and decide between the business and the police department if we feel that a detail is necessary.
How many numbers have you had in the past then? If you've had in the past there, how many people do you expect to be there?
On average, it's usually about 100 people who show up for the actual costume contest, but they trickle in and out throughout the day.
They do?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like a great event, as long as we do check with the police department and see how they feel about having that many people in the, on the premises serving beer and wine.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Any reason for the $1 beer? I mean, I know they're going to be monitored with an X on the, but it doesn't really control how many beers one person can drink, because one person who goes and gets the beer could be in a group of 3 or 4, but they don't drink. They bring in the beer back to one person who, you know what I mean? So I'm just curious where that $1 beer, which is unusual for any of these events, why so inexpensive?
We do $1 beer for all of the events that we host, and then we
Okay.
usually donate the proceeds to charity.
Okay, more of a charitable thing, okay.
Yeah, mostly the beer's there to bring the customers in, kind of show them a different customer experience while they're in the store. But then again, we don't use those proceeds for anything more than charities.
So is it the beer cans or bottles or tap?
We only do cans,
Just cans,
and they're
okay.
opened as they're given to the customers.
Gotcha. How many people you expect?
About 100 people.
100 people, okay. All right, no more questions. Okay.
Are there any proponents? Hearing and seeing none. Are there any opponents? Hearing and seeing none, we'll close that. Is there a motion to be voted upon?
I'll make a motion to approve after checking with the police department on detail.
Yes.
And I'll second that with the same consideration.
The motion is approved. The application for actually, we only discussed the 1 day.
No, that's
Yes.
true.
So I guess we'll approve the 1 day, and then we'll talk about this one. So tell me about the pet adoption day.
So we've partnered with a local animal shelter who's going to bring in some adoptable dogs. They're coming in, and again, we're going to be serving the $1 beers, bring our customers in, kind of let them play with the dogs that are available for adoption, and the proceeds are going to that charity. It's the Great Dog Rescue of New England.
Okay, sounds like a great event.
The pets will be on the premise for
Yeah.
adopting? Really?
Well, you can't go home with them that day, but it starts the
Sure,
adoption
sure.
process.
How many dogs you expecting?
Oh, I'm not sure, but I hope it's a lot.
Oh, interesting, okay. All right, it's a great event.
It depends on the dogs that they have available at the time. It keeps changing. They had received some of the dogs from the hurricanes, so the dogs they have keep changing.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Are there any opponents? Hearing and seeing none. Are there any proponents? Hearing and seeing none. We will vote on the application. Is there a motion to?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the pet adoption day at the
I'll second.
Harley Davidson.
Oh, I'll second the motion.
The motion is approved. So the applications for 2 special 1-day malt, wine, common victulars, and entertainment licenses has been approved to be exercised at the same location. The requested date and times are Saturday, October 28, 2017, from 12 p.m. until 4 p.m. for a Halloween party, and Sunday, November 17, 2017, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. for a pet adoption day. Both events are to be held indoors. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item, item number 5, Royal Foods Entertainment, Inc., DBA Juliet Bakery and Cafe, 91 Centennial Avenue. Youssef Yassin, President and Manager.
Yes.
This is an application for a transfer of a common victuals license. The application of Royal Foods Enterprises, Inc., for a transfer of a common victuals license from Fadala House of Pastry, Inc., said license to be exercised at the same address. The requested hours of operation are 7 a.m. until 10 p.m. The requested seating is for 36. Your name and address for the record, please, sir?
My name is Yusuf Yassin. My address is 30 Pine Ridge Road, Boston, Massachusetts.
Thank you. And can you tell me a little bit about what you plan to do here?
It will be a bakery and cafe. So mainly it will be, some of it will be takeout and would have sit-in cooked food, basically sandwiches and.
Very good. And are there any questions from other commissioners?
I have no question.
This is a transfer of a license,
Correct.
correct? So what is the seating there now?
We maintain it exactly what it was, 36 seats.
So it presently is 36 seats.
Whatever number of seats the restaurant had, we didn't change the number of seats.
Okay, so there's going to be no changes at all other than the transfer of this common victual license?
Correct, yeah. So apart from, we're doing a major build-out, renovating the place and getting it ready, yes.
Oh, okay.
Other than that, yeah, it doesn't have liquor, no other change.
Not adding any seats or extending hours?
Not at all.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is there something to be voted on?
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer of common victual license for Royal Food Enterprises.
I'll second the motion.
Now, the motion is approved. The application for a transfer of a common victualer's license, the application of Royal Foods Entertainment, Yusuf Yassin, President and Manager, for a transfer of a common victualer's license from Fadala House of Pastry, said license to be exercised at the same address. Requested hours of operation are from 7 a.m. until 10 p.m. The requested seating is for 36. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Item number 7, Cafeteria Las Delicias Colombianas, Inc., 86 Shirley Avenue, North Cordero. Manager. Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped over 6. I'm sorry about that. Item number 6, Argueta and Piche Corp., DBA Nino's Restaurant and Bar, 78 Everett Street. That is Julia Duarte Alcorn, manager. This is an application for a transfer of an all-alcohol restaurant license, a change of seating, and change of hours. The application of Argueta and Piche Corp., DBA Nino's Bar and Restaurant, for transfer of an all-alcohol restaurant license from Nino's Italian Restaurant, Inc., said license to be exercised at the same address. The requested seating is for 58. Prior seating was 48. Requested hours are from 9 a.m. until 11 p.m. The former hours were 11 a.m. until 11 p.m. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Attorney Peter Martino for the proposed licensee, Argueta and Peach Corporation. And this is Julia Duarte Alacon. Why don't you give her
Hello.
She's the president of the corporation and manager of the
Thank you.
restaurant. This is a transfer of the license from Nino's Restaurant to this new entity called Argueta and Peach Corporation, but basically they're going to run as Nino's Restaurant. It'll be a similar restaurant as Nino's. They just extended the time because they're going to do breakfast, but basically it's going to be the same type of restaurant. Now, they may be changing the menu a little bit, but it's still going to be under the same name at this point, and there won't be much change. I think you said the seating capacity, 48 to 58. I think on our application we said 48, but I didn't think there was a change in occupancy. Whatever it is now is what it should remain at. I don't know whether Nino's was 48 on this, because on my application that I'm looking at, proposed seating capacity was 48. I noticed you said 58, a change. I don't know.
Requested seating, it does say requested seating of 58, but the prior seating was 48.
Yeah, that's what we
Okay,
had.
so I don't know where the requested seating come in, but it must be on your application. But that would also have to be approved for an occupancy change. I think that would go through the building department
Yeah.
and fire.
Yeah, my application is 48, unless I don't know, proposed seating capacity, 48 on page 2. Oh,
This indicates the proposed seating capacity to be 48.
yeah, which is what Nino's has.
Yes.
So as far as we're concerned, we're not changing the seating capacity.
Well, we wouldn't be able to change it without approval.
Well, I mean, if they...
Occupancy, if they go up on the occupancy. It's very small.
No,
But I don't think they did apply for this.
no,
No, it says here it's only 48.
no, should not be any change in seating
So
capacity.
there's no change in
No.
seating requested? Okay.
The hours were changed because they were going to have it as breakfast.
That's just earlier
I'm
hours.
also the owner of Nino's right
Yeah.
now. My name is Marco Stefanelli. I own Nino Restaurant. And, it's 48 right now. That's
Right.
what we had before the application. So I don't know if they want to change or not. I don't think so because they think they're going to keep the same, but as now it's 48. So.
Very good.
Yeah, 48, I don't know.
So actually, the only change that you're requesting would be the 9 AM opening?
Yes.
And you...
And if that's a problem, I mean, they just wanted to run it as a breakfast.
Okay.
They were going to try breakfast and see how it, add that feature to the restaurant. Nino's currently does not have breakfast.
Well, I don't have a problem with breakfast. I mean, that's not opening at
Do
9
any of
o'clock. I think there's other businesses that open at 9 o'clock. I'm more concerned with what experience they have in the restaurant business. I mean, this is a transfer of an all alcohol. So,
Why don't you, the translator.
I'm translating. So I've been owner of restaurant before.
could you please speak into the mic?
Oh,
A little.
sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. I've been owner of restaurant before. I have experience with American and Hispanic food, and I'm currently learning about the Italian cuisine.
Well, on her application, she had indicated she, worked at Express Burrito and Delicia's Monte Cristo, and I believe Sergio is also a principal in this, and he is a chef, is that correct? Yeah. And what,
Better speak
the
into
question
the mic.
was,
He's
what
holding
experience
it
have you
down.
had opening a restaurant? Also, they are going to keep the chefs from Nino's Restaurant on for some time to help them get through the transition process. They may keep them on permanently, but they intend to keep the staff of Nino's Restaurant on with them during this time to
Well,
help them out.
my commissioner makes a very good point that this is an all-alcohol license, and looking at the application, I don't see any experience in dealing with alcohol and in the restaurant setting. Is that accurate, or?
La pregunta aquí es de que es un restaurante con todo alcohol y tiene una aplicación que tú tengas experiencia con un restaurante con alcohol.
Con alcohol no solo he trabajado, con el alcohol sí he trabajado, pero no así de que tenga experiencia.
Well, I believe they're also going to keep those bartenders on to help them run this restaurant. I think they are. They're young. They're new in the restaurant business. They're going to try to make it a go, but they are going to keep on that staff so that they're in compliance with all rules and regulations and to make sure that they're compliant with all of the regulations. I know the board's concerned. Obviously, they're young. This is their first restaurant that they're going to have on their own. They have hardworking people. Sergio is also a principal, and they are going to keep on a lot of the staff of Nino's, especially in the kitchen as well as at the bar.
Now, when you say she's worked at other restaurants, you mentioned the Lido.
She was, in her application, it was Express Burrito, and she
So
was
was
a
she
waitress
tip-
at Delicia's back in 2014 and 15.
Is
She has it
tip
as an
certified?
ownership in Express Burrito.
Yes, she was the owner.
She worked down there. And Chipotle?
Is she
When
tip
did you work at
certified?
Chipotle?
Ya la agarré como encargo de mami, iba para mami.
¿Cuándo fue que trabajaste en Chipotle? 2011.
2011, Chipotle. She was a,
She was in the process of becoming a manager.
she was in the process of becoming a manager of Chipotle in 2000,
And that's when she became owner of Express Burrito.
and that's when she, okay. Why don't you just let them know?
Is she tip certified? Could you answer that question, please?
Si tú fuiste certificada. Certified for,
To serve alcohol.
Para servir alcohol.
En Occidente,
Yes. Yes, I have. Yes.
She is tip certified. Did you work as a waitress at these other establishments? Is that what she did? What was her duties at the other restaurants that you worked at?
Well, I believe she was
Yes.
at Express Burrito.
And Express Burrito. She was the owner.
She was an owner at Express Burrito.
Monte Cristo, Mesera.
In Monte Cristo.
Was there alcohol at that establishment?
Which one, Express Burrito?
Yes.
Was there alcohol at Express Burrito?
¿Había alcohol en Express Burrito? No.
No.
And you were a waitress at Monte Cristo.
¿Y fuiste mesera en Delicias de Monte Cristo? Yes.
And Sergio? Any certification for alcohol?
Well, counsel, when you say they're going to stay on,
Well,
what
no,
time?
he's a partner or owner.
He's a partner. What's the time frame there? Right? You're staying on for a month, 2 months?
No,
Are
no,
you-
I'm sorry, he's an actual owner of the new restaurant. Nino's Restaurant, they're gonna keep some of their staff on, both the chef and I believe on the bar.
For how long? Do they have a,
Well, they haven't decided, they may keep I know they may keep the chef on permanently. As far as the bar's concerned, I'm not exactly certain, but they would keep them on until they're up and running and certified, and make sure that they have qualified bartenders. If there's a stipulation to that, we will be happy to.
no, I'm just concerned. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of experience here to, to take over a full alcoholic beverage license. I'm
Well,
looking for
I-
more than that, a little more experience, and who's going to be running this? What are the manager's hours there? I don't seem to be getting a lot of answers.
Well, we could get you better answers to that. I think the issue was that they are planning to keep the staff on from Nino's. This was our, first step for the purchase of the business, was the transfer of the license. We can provide you, if you'd like, that information. I'm sure they need obviously to have qualified staff. If it's the bar that's the issue, then we can make sure that we can provide you with that information. I don't think they have that at this time, because they haven't gone that far in the purchase of this business. They have an asset agreement. We've said that they're going to keep on the employees of Nino's, and we can give you a time frame and the individuals, names and information of those individuals that are certified to run the bar, who they are, and the length of time that they will be working there. I would think that they would be working there for at least a year, for the coming year or longer. And obviously, you have the right to review that to make sure that it's. I understand the board's concern. They are young, this is their first restaurant, and they're trying to buy this restaurant and make a go of it, so they obviously have to deal with the, having qualified employees, especially at the bar.
Oh, we hear the board.
This is a
the board
family
wants to help
restaurant, it's not a heavy, I don't think it's a heavy situation where you have an all-night bar type thing. I mean, they do serve drinks, and it is a full liquor license, but, and I'm not belaying that point. I think they need to have qualified staff, and if you want, we can provide that to you.
I mean, we're here to help people. That's what this board does. We do want to see people get ahead, especially new business owners. But also, we have to be careful at, who's running the bar, if they're qualified, are they tip certified? There were a lot of
Absolutely,
questions.
and we can get that for you, if we can provide that to you at any time. I think at this point, we submitted the license, it wasn't part of the application. I apologize, if I had known that, I would have provided that this afternoon. I didn't know that question was going to come up.
Because you do have a beautiful bar in there. I've been there, and it is a large bar. So, I'm just concerned at who's
Sure.
going to be running it. And again, you say people are going to stay on, but, some people stay on a week, 2 weeks. Now they're working for new owners. They may leave in 2 weeks.
Correct.
So you really, we have no guarantee that
No.
we can go on that to approve a license, that they're going to be there for a while. So I do have concerns about transferring this license. I would like more information.
Sure.
Truthfully, I need more information, and, but I'd like to hear from my colleagues. I don't know, maybe they see it differently.
As difficult it is, I have to agree with Linda. Same kind of questions. There's no plan on management. They're new to the, it is a full liquor light, which is difficult to get these days. There aren't many left, if any. So I have to agree with it. I'd like to see, who's going to stay on, all the certifications, and making sure that they will stay on for at least 6 months to a year, whatever that number is. So I'd have to agree with Linda that I'd like to see that first.
Sure. Fine, we will provide that to you. I don't know whether, we can continue this hearing?
I would like to see a continuance. That's just me. I don't know how my colleagues feel.
And we could
But
provide
I'd
that
like to see a
information.
continuance and just answer some of those questions. I'd like to be a little more secure of who's running the alcohol. I'm sure they'll do great with the business, and the breakfast there may go well. I have no problems with the common victual license or the entertainment that is there in the 48 seats. If the seats are changed, I think we're going to have to go through inspectional services for that.
Fine.
But yes, I would like a little more questions answered, mostly pertaining to the alcohol beverage transfer.
Who's going to be running the bar and the staff that we have there and how long they're going to be on?
And if they obviously have to be tip certified to work the bar.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, I would just feel comfortable with a little more information.
Fine.
So is there a motion to continue this until our next meeting?
I'll make a motion to continue it to the following meeting, which I believe is the third Wednesday of November 15th, which would be November 15th.
November 15th?
Yes, at 3 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
If you have any questions, you can certainly call our office
second
and
it yet.
we'll clear them up for you.
We should second
Thank
it.
you.
Okay, good luck.
Official, we should make it a second.
I'm sorry, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
The motion is continued till the next meeting.
Thank you.
Item number 7, Cafeteria Las Delicias Colombianas, Inc., 86 Shirley Ave, North Cordero Manager. This is an application for a change of seating. The application of Cafeteria de las Colombias for a change of seating, allowed seating. Okay, and
Good afternoon.
name and address for the record, please, sir.
Corey Rhodes, attorney with D'Ambrosio Brown, LLP, 14 Proctor Avenue in Revere. I represent Cafeteria Las Delicias Colombianas at their property at 86 Shirley Avenue. This is really about some housekeeping items, just to give a little history about what's going on at the property and clarify some of the records between the property and the city. At a routine inspection by the fire department, they did identify that some of the egresses at the property were not up to current code, and so they've been working diligently over the past few months to get everything lined up to make those work. We've had a number of meetings with code compliance in the Inspectional Services Department and the fire department, and happy to say that I think we're days away from those being finalized and the final sign-offs coming from the Inspectional Services Department. As part of this, a question came up about what the restaurant's current occupancy is, and going through the city's file and trying to look at what kind of other evidence there is at the property. There was an application filed in 2011 that appeared to show that 182 seats were at least a permissible occupancy level back in 2011. But that this discrepancy, some discrepancy, this wasn't carried over onto the license itself. So we have filed new seating charts and gotten sign-offs from the building department and are just asking for an occupancy of 165. We're not trying to pack people in. This seems to be a good level of seating, and don't really need to go up to anything, 200 or above. Would be happy with this level. And just wanted to come before you today to clarify the seating and really make it consistent with what's at the property.
Okay.
Very good. And so, what is the seating that you're requesting?
The seating number would be 130 seats, and that would be then 35 standing to get up to that full occupancy of 165.
I see that you have a concentrated seating of 82 persons, right? Is that
I think that was
62? I'm sorry.
this what's called floor area allowance. In talking with the architect, we believe this was in the building department's jacket from 2011, and this was showing a very large occupancy. It would be permissible of 250, but that was from that 2011. We don't even want to reference that. We would just want to go with the floor plan that was filed, and it should be in your packets. And in the the lower left-hand corner, you would see that it has a total seating of 130. And I did talk to the architect. He said you don't really show standing room seating or occupancy, but he said that would be a 35 number and bring this total occupancy to 165.
Okay,
And this
so when the
was-
building department, excuse me.
Sure,
Go ahead.
please.
Okay. When the building department, this goes back to 2011.
Correct.
But I think in that time, haven't they remodeled and taking up more space on the bar side?
Since 2011, I think, I mean, this is what it is now. This is what the seating is now and what the floor space is now. And dependent, what they may have been able to fit in the past, they are comfortable fitting, or just requesting the 165. And as far as the building department is signed off, they said you'd be fine in 180, you'd be fine in 190. We're going to just request a lower number because we think that's just better and a safer number.
Because it has changed quite a bit since 2011, I will say that. But this is the new
Correct.
floor plan that
This is the floor
building
plan.
department has approved for
Yes.
165.
Yes.
Okay.
So 165 you're requesting, that's the number of seats plus an additional 35
Yeah.
standing. Oh, no.
Sorry to interrupt you. So it's 130 seating, 35 would be just additional standing room.
Oh, so a total of 165
Correct.
people, okay,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
200.
And I think, had made some understanding myself weeks ago and only was able to pin that down with the architects that the seating is 130 and then standing would be the additional 35 and bring us to that 165 number.
When you say standing, I'm a little confused. Does that mean the bar area, sitting at the bar?
I think that would
Is that
be,
what you
yeah, I
call
think that would be back at the bar area and the dance floor area.
Okay.
And so if you see those occupancy kind of placards, I think the occupancy placard would say 165, and we just wanted to be sure to show you how that broke down.
So just so I'm clear, 165 is the total number of occupants.
That's what-
130 of them seated,
35.
another 35 standing.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what was it before? More seats?
I think before, it was actually very similar to this before. It's just the numbers on in the record with the city and the number that was actually printed on the license were completely different. And it didn't really make sense where one came from another. So we just wanted to come before you to make sure that everybody's on the same page, that you have the updated floor plan that is showing you exactly what's there.
Okay. And everything else stays the same? You got 2 AM license
Yes.
and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, going by the plans, I have no problem with the 165. That's 130 and 35 standing.
Mhm.
Okay.
Very good. Are there any proponents? Hearing and seeing none. Are there any opponents? Hearing and seeing none. Is there something to vote on?
I'll make a motion to approve the change of seating and approve the new, I guess, specs that they presented.
Okay.
Do you have a
I'll
second?
second that motion.
The motion is approved for Cafeteria Las Delicas Colombianas, Inc., 86 Shirley Ave. The application for a change in allowed seating to 165, that is 130 seated, 35 standing.
Thank you very much.
Item number 8, CBW Lending LLC, 190 VFW Parkway. This is a hearing into the unlicensed operation of a commercial parking lot business at 190 VFW Parkway. Is there anybody on behalf of CBW Lending?
Mr. Chairman, members, James Cipolletta, 385 Broadway, Revere, on behalf of CBW Lending.
Thank you, sir. The reason why that you were asked to appear is that there's been a commercial parking operation operating out of there for a while that's been unlicensed, and we wanted to know basically what your intention was as far as rectifying that.
Indeed. The owners in New York and also the local representatives here, Mr. Tuttle, Chip Tuttle, have been in conversation with the city and the community development director and others who were involved with the input in trying to shape what the former Wonderland Greyhound Park property is going to be. I think it's pretty safe to say that the city and the ownership are going down the same path, sort of as a partnership in development. The property was anticipated to have been sold and developed a long time ago. And this parking enterprise has been operating since the early 90s. It began when Wonderland was actually in operation, and Wonderland Greyhound Park, prior to the CBW ownership, was operating commuter parking, and that was on the east side, the northeast side, in the corner, and it generally accommodated people who were traveling into Bostonwood Park and coming from the North Shorewood Park. They then entered into a contract with one or two of the rental companies in Revere to store cars that would be used and changed in and out of the fleets, and they've had those contracts for a number of years. At some point in around 2013, when the Greyhound racing was abolished by referendum and by the legislature, Wonderland went out of business, and it continued to use their parking lot for the only thing that it actually is fit for, was parking. The city asked us then to apply for a special permit, and just to back up a little bit, Wonderland had been paying the license fee over the number of years to the city of Revere, both for the commercial parking and the storage, which was intended to be a fairly like a dormant and benign use, where you wouldn't have people coming and going at all hours of the day. It was just for storage by the companies who would move the cars up to basically Lee Burbank Highway. So we did that, and the city council at the time engaged with the then owners, inquiring as to what the development plan would be. And they had a number of different things that were coming down the pike that never came to fruition. It was going to be developed by the then owners, and then it changed to it being offered for sale, which it is now, to a developer to work with the city to develop the property. The city council, hearing what the owner had said with regard to the development plans, when it issued the special permit, put a 2-year limitation on the permit, that it would have expired by its own terms on 31 December of 2015. December 31 comes and goes. The operation is still in effect. The ownership then applied and paid the 2016 license fee, and sometime either in late 2016 or early 2017, was notified that the operation was not in compliance with zoning because the special permit had lapsed. We spoke with counsel in New York, we spoke with the owner's general counsel in Boston, and had determined that a sunset provision on a special permit for zoning purposes is not allowed. The permit granting authority under Massachusetts law, both the statute 40A and the case law that follows thereunder, dictates that you can give a special permit and it runs with the land, just like a variance. If you wanted to build a deck on your house and you needed a variance, they couldn't say, well, you can just do this variance for 2 years and then you remove the deck. What the city council of any special permit granting authority is allowed to do under Massachusetts law is to have the permit reviewable at certain points, and then hold a hearing and revoke the permit if in fact the special permit granting authority, which in this case is the city council, saw fit by the preponderance of evidence that the special permit holder for some reason should not have the permit any longer. But they have to have the opportunity to be heard and have a fair hearing. So we went down that road with the city council and with the administration, and recently received and in the interim attempted to obtain a 2017 license, and willing to pay, I think it was $17,500 in licensing fees based on the number of spaces that were allocated. I understand that the city sees this sort of as an internal conflict. We have a conflict between zoning and licensing is not going to license an activity if the city says, well, it's not compliant with zoning. We get that. So about 40 days ago, we got an enforcement letter from the building department, Mr. DeCristoforo, who would be then the statutory zoning enforcement officer, asking us to cease and desist, giving us also the 30-day appeal period under Chapter 40A, which we took. We did file the appeal. It is pending. It will be heard by the ZBA at its November, whatever the last date is in November. It could be 23rd, 29th, whatever the date is. It's on the agenda to be heard. And the issue to be determined there is whether or not we raised two arguments. One is that you cannot put a sunset provision on a special permit. And number two, we didn't need a special permit in any event, because when the parking lot activity began and the parking and storage was licensed, we were zoned RD. It then went through several zoning changes, and I think it went through TED and then ended up as PDD1. The current use is not allowed without a special permit in the PDD1 zone. We understand that. However, under Chapter 40A, Section 6, which covers pre-existing non-conforming uses which were legal in the prior zoning districts, we are protected. So we've argued it in the alternative. The then owner in 2013 didn't see any real reason to contest the condition, the 2-year condition, because I can say without knowing, but I can assume that they thought they had the place sold. And it didn't bother them, because they committed to try to at least sell it or develop it within 2 years. Nobody wants to see that as a parking lot. That's not the long-term goal for the owners of the property. But in the interim, it's a parking lot. What else is it good for? Parking cars. I mean, you can't do anything else there. The building is coming down. It's been taken down in stages and it's going to be removed, and it's still for sale. That's where we are at this juncture. I'm not trying to cloud the issue with 40A language and all that. I understand that this is the License Commission. We do want the license. We want to pay the license fee. I think the ownership had talked about a tender of the 2017 license fee without recourse. I mean, we used it. We owe it. We don't dispute that. And going forward, whether this It's tied up at the Board of Appeals, or it goes to Land Court or the Superior Court, or everywhere it goes. The ownership is still willing to pay, without recourse, the license fee, and to at least satisfy the parameters of the License Commission. Zoning is a whole more complicated matter. I wish it was as straightforward as licensing, but unfortunately it's not. And that's kind of where we are. There have been, and you probably have heard in the Journal, in the item, and the Advocate sometimes stir up the story every once in a while to sort of validate the rumors that a company has come in from New York and they have all kinds of plans. They want to buy it, they want to put it under agreement. Yeah, that happens, and it happens every couple of months. Somebody comes in and they take a look at Wonderland and they try to work with the city with some sort of a master planning of development, and that is still ongoing. Right now, there's not a P&S, but they're hopeful.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate the explanation. One of the reasons why we wanted to have you come up here, though, is that we've been getting an awful lot of complaints about that operation, and we've had, the initial 750 cars has been doubled, and it just seems as if they're not being very good neighbors, and they're not being respectful of the people in the neighborhood or the city, for that matter. And so I think that, I understand the legal situation is cloudy and murky, but as far as being a good neighbor and a good business in the vicinity, that's not really cloudy and murky at all to me. I mean, if you really, and the people wanted to work with the neighbors, I'm sure, the neighbors would like that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Councilor Powers and I probably spoke once or twice a week over the course of the summer during that period where the complaints were coming. We understand what the nature of the complaints were, and I think the ownership has done what it can to abate that. They've cut down the number. Avis is the current lessee of that out parcel, and they've pulled out a number of the cars over the last few weeks. I think that's fairly noticeable driving by. The other complaints were that they didn't want the cars parked within a certain distance of the residential neighborhood, which makes an enormous amount of sense. They pulled those back. One thing that was an item of sort of friction between the ownership and the lessee was sometimes somebody would come in and you'd be in the middle of 700 or 800 cars, and it may be at nighttime, and he can't find the car he's looking for, so they activate the alarm and the lights. That's totally unacceptable. That was dealt with the lessee as well. As the complaints come in, I pass them on to Chip Tuttle, or Chip Tuttle passes them on to the ownership, and they get on it right away. It's not something that the ownership condones. It's supposed to be a passive use. That's what storage is, and it was supposed to be a little more benign than the commuter parking that was eliminated when the T finished its garage across the street. But these things happen. We try to stay on top of them. It is managed now locally by a company out of Wakefield, so it's not the call New York and see who's at his desk anymore. It's a direct line to Chip, and Chip calls Wakefield. So we have a little more control over it, and hopefully, again, it's the hope of the ownership that this is going to be conveyed soon and developed real soon.
I have a couple of other questions. This is going off a little in a different direction. I agree with everything that you've said, but this is our city. Our city doesn't want to be made up of parking lots. And I do agree, you don't have a license, so it's very hard for us to really do anything about it, but I'm hoping the boards that are involved are going to clear up this matter. I remember, as you know, we worked together many years ago. I was under the impression there was actually a signed agreement with the MTA that if they built garages for parking, that Revere could no longer use that for a parking lot. Now, this goes back quite a few years, but I do remember it. okay? So I'm wondering why that's never been brought into play. And that was the agreement. The MBTA said they would not build if we allowed paid parking. So I, for one, would like to look into that and where that ended up. Maybe we can go to the city solicitor. The other issue I have, I've gone by, and I haven't now since, of course, you know, the building department has gotten involved, but they were storing trucks there with gasoline. They were 18-wheelers in the back there. That's unacceptable. Even if you had a parking permit, we would never allow that, okay? So I would like to make sure that you say you want to work with the city and you're going to help us. I don't want to see 18-wheelers in there. And as far as the northeast lot that you're speaking about, I am still concerned if there is some kind of an agreement that the city cannot use that for a parking lot. I remember that clearly. I think we worked together on that.
We did, and my recollection is that this all happened prior to the finalization of the MBTA plans and prior to the construction. And the city, and I think it may have been the Ambrosino
Yes, I believe it
administration,
was.
right?
Yes.
Assured the MBTA that there would be no more commuter parking either on the east side or the west side of Ocean Avenue. I think the parking lot that remained, there was one parking lot that was paid parking on Ocean Avenue, is now gone. And Wonderland dissolved its commuter parking so as not to compete with the MBTA.
Right.
So the activity that Wonderland, or the owners now of Wonderland, engage in is not parking, it's storage. So I can't drive in from Winthrop, for instance, and pay somebody $10 to park my car there. I can't do that.
Well, I have to disagree with you there because whether you're aware of that or not, I've seen a fella park there on the Parkway, VFW Parkway, sitting there and actually has a jacket on, and he's letting cars in there collecting money. And he sits in a chair out there. I've seen it myself, and I've gone by, and I think maybe my colleague I had sent you down there. I don't know if you did go by and check that out. So I've seen it, whether you're aware of that or not. And it's on the
I get surprised every day, but that one's a real surprise.
It's 190 VFW Parkway,
Okay.
right where the entrance was. And I've seen him sitting there. Gets a lounge chair, a chair, and is sitting there with his jacket on, letting them in, and goes right up to the window.
Interesting.
So this was maybe 4 or 6 weeks ago, that I haven't seen it recently since you've cleared out that side of the lot.
There was one weekend where the ownership allowed it. It was something, I don't know if it was Sandcastle or something connected with an event down by the beach that allowed them to use the parking lot. And I
And
think
he
that's
was-
the only time that I'm aware of. And I'll tell you, Commissioner, it wasn't me sitting in the lawn chair.
It wasn't you, but it's been a couple of times.
No, I'll
As you
find
said,
out about
the,
that, because I know that there was an agreement, and Wonderland dissolved that whole parking thing, unless there's some guy with a Kmart lawn chair that throws it down there at 7 a.m.
Well, I can assure you, they weren't new cars. These
Yeah.
were, you're talking now, you're only using it for businesses and
Right.
and new cars. These were not cars. These all had plates on them.
That's interesting.
And I've gone by a couple of times, I've seen it, and I don't know if I mentioned it to Commissioner Celovich, but I know I did with Commissioner LaCroy. And I went by a couple of times and definitely is collecting money. So now, like I say,
I'll definitely check that
190
one out.
I took the address, 190 VFW Parkway, right across from Wonderland Marketplace. So I'd like to check that. And the other thing, while this is in court and you're going back and forth, I would appreciate that there wouldn't be 16 or 18-wheelers being parked in there with, I would think that's, even the fire department would have to approve anybody, whether you have a permit or not. I don't think that's permissible in our city.
I agree, Commissioner. I don't think that was even permissible under the license over the years.
No, they absolutely, well, we know who first started the business there, the parking lot business.
Yes,
And that license was removed.
yes.
So I mean, that was the only thing, unfortunately, you don't have a license here, so I don't know what more I can say, but I'm hoping you do the right thing, and of course, it would be retroactive should we get this permit, and should a license be approved by this board. But I would like to check that, and honestly, I would like you to keep an eye on it if someone is using that for a parking lot, and the 18-wheelers. And obviously, you have to say you've seen the trailer was parked in there. A home trailer was in there, that someone was living out of the trailer there. Now, if you're not aware of that, that was happening. Had an awning, opened the awning, and, you know, it might be the same person that's using it for a parking lot. But I think, you know, obviously, you're the attorney, you should keep a closer eye on it and maybe have some detail down there.
Yeah, I think at different points along the way, we had a fire detail that was there, I think, like 24 hours a day. There was somebody there on premises, and the owner still has somebody checking on the property. So I'll make sure that they put that on his
Well, I'd like to
to-do
have
list,
your
because
number.
that shouldn't
I'd like to have
happen.
your number, because if I see him sitting there parking, collecting monies, I thought that was part of your business.
No.
Part of their
Well, the
business,
collecting
I'm
money
saying.
is part of the city's business, but I try, but I don't think that they condone that, or they're operating it. That's really news to me.
Well, I had actually asked the city to just go and put a barricade so they couldn't.
Wow.
But that didn't go anywhere. But those are my concerns anyways, and
I've
you know, at
noted
that
those.
point, I hope this gets through the courts quickly, because the last thing I want to see in the city of Revere is parking lots. That's not what we want to be about.
So,
Thank you.
sorry. So, right now, the original, to create a baseline, in 2013, 750 spaces, 24-hour parking lot with 15 trucks. That's the starting point. And that's when the license was, you know, approved and active, according to these notes. So, I'm just looking at the background. So, is there more than 750 today, to the best of your knowledge? Or can we find that out? Because
I think we increased it on the last application to,
Excuse me, I think,
right.
I went by the parking lot today, there were less than 300 cars in the lot. There were no 18-wheels, no trucks at all. I'd
Okay.
say there were roughly 250 cars in the lot.
okay, so, okay.
And I think a lot of that, too, has to do with, because it's a rental, they're serving right now the rental car agencies, and a lot has to do with what the demand is on their fleet. So,
Sure.
you know, school vacation time is always a horror show, and, you know, summertime, school vacations and things, that becomes busy.
I got the impression there was more, but obviously there's a lot less, which is a good thing. So, and there's no trucks, which is even a better thing. So, I mean, like my colleagues had mentioned, you know, it's a lot, while this gets ironed out with the council and the city and the the company, there's not a heck of a lot we can do other than, you know, voice our concerns about, the neighborhoods and stuff like that, which Linda kind of clearly stated, so I kind of definitely will back her in everything she stated. And, that's about it.
All right, thank you, Counselor. Would anybody else
Thank
like
you
to
very much,
speak on the
Mr.
matter?
is he a proponent or opponent?
Are you a proponent or an opponent?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, to comment on Commissioner Ganasso's comments, she's absolutely right. There were people down there collecting monies to park cars in there. Commuter parking, whatever you want to call it. Okay, I'd like to clear something else up too. The attorney mentioned the fact that the city is in some sort of a partnership with Wonderland and referenced the parking. We are in no partnership, to my knowledge, with Wonderland. The only partnership we are involved with would be bringing commercial development in there to make it a good project and raise monies for the city of Revere. The Sunshine Clause. line 7 of the special permit specifically, I believe, calls for 2 years parking from the date of issuance, so there would be no, I mean, it's very clear. If you have an agreement with someone and you sign onto that agreement and it says 2 years, there's an expiration date, then that's law. It should be, anyway. I know it is in, most courts. And I know that they talk about revoking a permit because they violated the conditions. They have violated the conditions. They've had as many as 1,500 cars in that lot down there. And the city of Revere, the residents of the city get nothing, okay? Now, you might say, well, issue a license and we'll get $1,700 or $17,000 or $18,000. I say once you issue a license, you're opening a can of worms, okay? And I would be adamantly opposed to this board issuing any license down there. And I know they've appealed, I believe, the decision of the building inspector to the zoning board of appeals, and I believe the zoning board of appeals will stand in favor of the city of Revere, and that will subsequently be probably go to Superior Court for a decision from the Superior Court. And that'll take some time. And we talk about being a good neighbor. A good neighbor, there wouldn't be any cars down there at all until this was resolved by the city council and the licensing board. So I say right now, they're in violation. With the cars they were parking there when that was a dog track, were accessory use to the dog track. There is no more dog track down there. To park cars down there legally, they need a commercial parking lot permit from the city of Revere, and subsequently a license based on that permit from this honorable board. So the city of Revere, my own opinion right now, monetarily is being raped. Okay? They've admitted to as much as $500,000 being taken in a calendar year. Okay? To say to the city of Revere, here's $18,000, $17,000, whatever it might be, that's ludicrous. We just did the circle over down there. We spent $74,000 on that circle. Well, I can't be sure, but I went down by there today and there was a car that looked like it crossed right over this circle. Totally wrong. There was an accident down there a couple of months ago, and the accident involved a couple of car jockeys, as I'll call them, and one of the principals at one of the rent-a-car companies, bringing them there to remove cars from that circle. So, again, that's a problem that is subject to another accident, or even, there were no fatalities, fortunately, but it's just a bad situation. And I think if they really want to be a good neighbor, get the cars out of there, wait for the zoning board of appeals ruling, wait for the Superior Court ruling, wait for the ruling of this licensing board, and then if it's favorable, you can park cars. If it's not, you can't. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Are there any other proponents or opponents that wish to speak on this hearing? Seeing and hearing none, I will close it. I don't really have much to say about this, other than we have a decision from the solicitor and we have things going on in court. There's really not much we can do as a licensing authority with this particular matter. However, we would hope that the business would act responsibly and take the consideration of the neighborhood and the people of the city into account when you're putting cars there, because really it's not a licensed situation, and it's one that needs to be dealt with.
I just have a question for the council. Because Council Powers made a very good point regarding and I understand there's a financial aspect of who you're representing, but make a point about while this gets ironed out, would you be in favor of approaching them with removing the cars, letting all the course up to the side, and then if they decide to make it a parking lot, bring the cars back? Again, most likely will say no, but if you're open to that, at least, and that's a really good point he made, is something that I would think might not be a bad option to kind of consider. Again, in our mind, it's, in for the city of Revere, in our mind, it's not an approved parking, but in your mind, it is. So, again, until this is ironed out, and to be good neighbors, because if you do come back, it won't be on the greatest, levels for everybody, well, especially for the city. So, something to think about. I just want to throw that out there. And once it's ironed out, then we can decide. Cars, don't take that long to move 300 cars in and out.
I think, Commissioner, since you've broached it, I'm now duty-bound to pass it along to the client, and I shall do so.
Thank you, Counselor.
Well, I'd like to place this on file and hope that the boards will communicate with us when they hear from the, whatever procedures is going forward, that we are kept, or maybe even the attorney, if you receive anything from the courts, letting us know where it stands. And until then, I guess we're just going to have to keep that on file and wait to hear from you or the owners as to what's taking place, or maybe the city council, Council Powers can keep us informed as to how things are going, and as soon as we hear any kind of news, this board maybe will be able to take some action and get retroactive for the couple of years that they've been running this parking lot without paying any fees. So I would appreciate that. I think until then, we maybe just will have to place this on file.
Just have to place it on file. Very good. Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
No, excuse me, we have communications here. What do we have
Would you like
here?
to read them?
No, it's just one. Communication from the Mass.
Very
Alcoholic
good.
Beverage.
Yes, thank you. There is a communication, a notification from the Massachusetts Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission of a return of no action for Lazy Crab LLC, 733 Broadway, Unit 1. Thank you.
Before we adjourn, I would just like to address an issue that we had at the carnival this year. Seems to be some confusion. We know what the incident was, and I've spoke with Lieutenant Randall, who will get us the information. But from what I understand, there may have been another incident at the Showcase Cinema, and therefore I'm asking my colleagues if maybe we could call them in and just clear up some questions that I have, and maybe with the reports we can receive from the police department, just see what they have in place for procedures at the theaters when they show these different types of venues for adults at night. So I'd make that in the form of a motion.
Before you do it, so I have a question for Officer Randall. So this shooting happened back, I'm sorry,
Okay.
I just want to get a little background, back in the summertime. And we never got any feedback on, what was it, what happened, where did it come? Should that information come back to us at some point so we can, unless this incident came up, we would not have, unless Linda found it, this would not have been brought up at this meeting today. Because did they just close the case, or is it still an ongoing investigation? Where do we stand on stuff like that?
I don't know exactly where that case stands. I'll certainly find out
Okay.
for you, and I'll forward along any information that I can.
Okay, perfect.
That would be great. So I have a motion if we can call them in. And certainly, I also would like to add one more part. If any incident that Lieutenant Randall does find and finds that maybe we need to bring them in sooner than later, I would ask that the board maybe would get together and vote for a special meeting to have them come in sooner than our next meeting. And also that Lieutenant Randall would give us all the updates on what transpired and if any after that. So I'll make that in the form of a motion, and we'll call them in on November 15th.
I'll second that motion.
The motion is ordered to call Showcase Cinemas before the council, the commission, to discuss security and incidents that have occurred there over the past few months. And that will take care of that. Is there a motion to
When is that?
adjourn?
When's our date? Our next meeting is...
November 15th, 2017, at 3 o'clock.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.